Hey, you're here again. Guess what? We are changing out a shower. There's nothing really wrong with this shower other than a wheelchair has to go over this 3-inch ledge and over this ledge inside here, in and out. And that's really hard to do, to get a shower for somebody that needs a wheelchair to get, and then has to have somebody help them. So in order to keep those people from having injury, trying to lift up and wiggle and pull all that out, we're going to try to take this shower out and have a floor that's covered with ceramic that goes not this inch and a half fall from the back to here. And I'm also going to get like an inch, I'm going to come a bit further out and go 1.5 inches to there. There's quite a lot to do along the way, but we're going to have all this so they can just roll up into it and roll out, and that's the whole goal. Otherwise, you could take this shower and just cut along here, drop down, put plywood down 3 inches below, so this ledge is not very much at all, but you would still have this. So if you wanted to do that for yourself, and you don't mind this 1.5 inch ledge here to go over, which is hard when you're moving a wheelchair with somebody in it. If you don't mind, you could do that. You could drop the whole thing down into the floor, but we're not doing that. We're going to come out here a foot further and go about 1 inch fall into that. All right, here we go. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this back and get to that flange that's right here. That there'll be screws or nails, most likely screws, that hold it to the wall. We're going to cut all this drywall back and the drywall mud back. And you can do that with a razor knife. And I've done videos on how you can cut. But in this case, we're going to do it with an oscillating saw. This one's a Ryobi. And we're going to cut all the way around this flange, all the way around, and cut it all out and pull the screws. So maybe we'll show you a couple little blurs, but we're not going to take you through the much consternation and hour or so of doing this. By the way, for all you people to not get discouraged, it took me 2 hours to drive here, over 2 hours. Then it took an hour to unload the materials and put it in a secure place where it's not going to get very wet or wet at all, and start spreading out the tools. So we got 3 hours of driving and spreading the materials. So whenever you get into it and you like get discouraged, and this is with 2 people, don't be discouraged. It's part of it. It may not be something that you see, and we're not going to show you all the work that we're going to do all the way around taking out the drywall, but it's part of it. So don't be discouraged. Know that you can do it. It just takes some time. I want you to know that the time involved is part of it. Maybe to give more respect to the guy who's doing the work, and if you're doing the work, allow for that time. Okay. An hour and a half later, we've got all the drywall cut back. We've also pulled the handle, which was an Allen wrench, and 2 Phillips screws, pulled that cover off, and then twisted out the neck. So now, in this case, it's been caught in the corner, which we'll probably have to cut it. Caulking didn't do very well. I don't know what brand it was to tell you not to use, but it ended up not doing real well, having that orange edge to it. And we're going to use this again giving it to her brother, and so we're gonna take care not to tear this up. Sometimes they slide down, so you literally have to cut out more at the top and they hook in, but this one doesn't. So you have to figure that out. So now we have to pull the screws out on the bottom edge, pull this cover off, disconnect the bottom. That'll be a journey itself. I think the wood looks pretty good. I probably will put something across here, here, and here for it to be no movement at the top. But we're making progress, and now we go to lunch. All right, so we pulled up the base, and this was rubber connected, so it's not threaded, it's not glued in. That pulled that out, and that's where our drain's going to be. Now we're going to cut out the plywood and start going down where we need to go. Makes my nose itch. All right, I'm gonna go. We'll come back after we cut it out, and we'll move this thing out, and we'll show you what we got to deal with. All right, now we took out the majority of the plywood. We got a little bit against the outside edge, and now we have to recess this in. Now, the reason I brought this hardy board, put it on the edge here, so then I can know for sure. When I have that 2 inches of concrete, the mortar that used for mortar mud, it'll be sitting on top of like 1/8 of an inch of rubber, and then 3/4 inches of plywood, which is actually 29/32 now. So pretty much 2 inches plus 3/4 of an inch. So 2 3/4 to 3 inches down. And we have to slope toward that drain. So right here, I want to be able to run smooth over. So this will be, that we'll have this even all the way across here. And then slope toward that middle, which would goes 1.5 inch fall in the middle. I know that sounds really, we're kicking all these numbers out. But right now, we're going to concentrate on going 2 3/4 to 2 7/8 down on this edge all the way across, and then we're going to put wood underneath it to support it in between the floor joists. So that's where we're at. All right, so now we've got to get our fall. We're 1 3/4 to here. We need 2 3/4. So we need to go down 1 inch into this floor joist here. And I made a mark right there. And that has to be all the way around that side also. And then we fall, if you remember when I took a level inside that regular shower, we fell 1.5 inches and 4 feet. So I want to be 1.5 inches lower than over there, which that is 1 inch. So this would be 2.5 here, 1.5 inches lower than 1 inch. 2.5. So I've made a mark right there. And then I've got to mark 1 inch down over here. So we got to cut on that line to get this ready. Right here is the center at 16 inches, and I marked it all the way through. And we're going to have to graduate it from 1 inch down to 1.5 inches down in 4 foot, and that's math. So these are on 16-inch centers, so that'd be divided by 3. 1.5 inches divided by 3 is 1/2 inch per 16. So we got 1.5 inches there, 2 inches there, and 2.5 there. Okay, so I'm gonna mark 2 inches here. Inch and a half here. All right. And then we're going to be 1 inch down here. Right there. And 1 inch here. Right there. All right. I'll transfer it on both sides, that way I won't have to guess whether I'm running level or not. That way that water is falling to the middle and then to the drain. It's going to be pretty steep going up that way, but that's okay. All right. We're going to be doing some pretty precarious and hardcore cutting, so maybe we'll do a couple of cuts showing you how we're doing it, but right now we're just going to mark everything. Well, we've cut where those lines were, we cut that top of the joist to the center, and right now I'm putting in boards to support this area. Now I'm going to put a 2x6 all the way up to the floor. This is it. I'm going to use the three-inch screw to tie it all together. I don't want any movement, so then that cracks the ceramic. Try to control the movement as much as possible. I'm going to put screws at an angle right through here. Alright. Now, I'm going to get a 2x so it doesn't interfere with the bottom down here, because I'm going to support all this from underneath with beams that I make and support down to the ground, so that this area will have a lot of support because there's going to be a wheelchair on it. So the next thing I'm going to do is put a 2x across here, 1 inch down, because this is really close to be trying to cut out. And I'm gonna build out a 1/2 inch here, almost an inch out. So I don't think the wheelchair will ever be, there'll be 1.5 inches of mud here, and then it'll drop down to the 1 inch, 1 3/4 mud here. And I'll put a 2x across here, all the way across 1 inch down, or 2 3/4 down here. It'll go all the way across. And then I'll put 2x across here, 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 so that I'm 2 3/4 down. Then I can put plywood on that. But before I put the plywood, I'm gonna put a whole bunch of 2x6s in here so that it's got a lot of support. And I also put a 2x6 across there. And that's probably what I'll do next, and then I'll do all the 2x4s. So I'm gonna measure from there to there, 40.5 inches. Then I'll custom cut a 2x, go to the slope and then back up. 40.5 inches, okay. All right, we'll see you in a bit. All right, so now we've put in all the 2x's that are cut and screwed off 3 per. We have a 2x right here, 2x4, and these are 2x6s. Now we're going to put plywood in, and if you notice, this runs uphill here, so our drain is right there. Okay. Now you've seen us, we screwed off everything. We have that 2-inch depth that we need. That's where our drain's going to be. We've cut off all the, on this side, it's a bit steeper over here, but it's all going to run to there. So this is floating to here, and that goes downhill to there. And then that goes this way. So we're putting in all this wood and going to the trouble of pre-drilling it because I had such a hard time with how hard the wood was. We'll come back to you when we get ready to put in the plywood. Let me see that. So we're getting ready to put the rubber in, and therefore the drain also. The first part is this unscrews so that you can adjust it to the height you want. But we've got to cut a hole for this to sit down in. It has these little edges. So what I did was turn it upside down, marked around it with a pencil. Then I measured, shows 3/4 of an inch to this, so I just went 5/8 of an inch all the way around in, and then we'll cut that out so that this can sit flat and be screwed down with these holes right here. And then I'll take this out, and the rubber will go inside. This goes back down and onto it, so that even if the ceramic tile floor and the concrete bed leaks, it will go into the drain. And then this, after we put this in and we sealed it around the edge, we'll put this in where we want it to be height-wise, which would be 2 inches. And everything will slope into this. All right? So here we go. I've already marked it. Now we got to cut it out.
We'll come back.
Come back. Well, after discussion, we brought in the wheelchair that's going to go in here. It will just fit in with this bench that we built. So this was something we added on, and we've taken this cover off so that we can put the rubber into that, and then this goes back over it. So we'll show you that in just a minute, but we're going to run the rubber up all the way around and show you what we end up looking like. The perfectionist I am, I'm not real happy with the rubber not being as tight as I'd like it to be, but it's pretty good. And it'll be even better when I get the concrete in. We set the height on this. We want it 1 7/8. Like so. We're going to caulk around that before we put cement in. But we're going to put the board, which we've got a wall board, we level it across here. So we have the same height all the way across the outside, which is what we expect it to be. And then to mark the top. So I can just put it up on the top, and the bottom of it will be where the concrete needs to go to. And here's where everything is going to. So the wall board we put across on top of the board, the hardy board that we're putting on the floor, which is actually Allure is the name of the company. But the wall board, we leveled it across from the sitting on top of that, which would give us the height we need all the way around. Then leveled across the top, and we got these marks here and here. So now we got to pop a line across here, and then we measure down around this bench, and that will give us the bottom matching that, which is what we want. We're going to slope into this drain from all directions, but that's the height. We're going to be all the way around the outside. Now it may sound complicated, but here we go. Well, we poured the bottom of the shower. Everything runs downhill. That's the thing the plumber knows. Everything's supposed to go downhill. Well, we're going to come back tomorrow and see how we do. Got to put all the rest of the hardy board on the rest of this room. And we'll see what happens then.